It's that time again. It's the Berkey and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. It's gonna get wild. It's gonna get wacky. It might even get a little zany. We're gonna talk about board games and the board game industry. And, you know, we might talk about anything else we want to talk about.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for your right honorable King, King Berkey?
We are live with the Berkey and Badger. Greetings, Babbleites, and welcome again to the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show and the wonderful kingdom of Babblot. I am your rightful honorable ruler, King Berkey, and of course your host of this elegant podcast, which is streamed live on YouTube through Shipyard and on Facebook. And everyone here is a board game enthusiast. From your very, very humble king, as I must admit that I'm the most humble of the kings, and in the most humble of all time, I would even say that much humility, and right down to the lowest pond drinker. Speaking of the lowest pond drinker, please welcome the lowest of low, my co-host and court jester, Sir Badger.
Good evening, everybody, or good morning, or good midday day to you, wherever you are on this planet of ours. And welcome to the show. This is episode number 74.
74?
Yep,
wow.
Yep, and we're doing the best of 2019. Yes, we're doing a top 5 list for all of you.
The top 5 most humblest kings ever. And I make the top 10 list of all of them.
As long as you don't resign from the royal family, you should be okay, sire.
Oh no, I'm just thinking about moving to Canada.
Yeah, you're thinking of moving to Canada, are you?
Oh.
But the aluminum's a bit cheaper there, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's the standard of living and there's more space.
Okay. And Game Top is normally cheaper there.
Yes, of course, but we do like it on the pond as well.
You like it on the pond, yeah. And
yes, over the pond from where you're located.
Yeah, and you just want to see if it gets colder there than where it is where you are.
You foiled my plan.
You definitely want to be Santa Claus. So what's going to be happening in this show? First off, we're going to have a quick talk about all the things that have been happening in Babblot. We're going to do a roundup of rumors in things that make the king go, And then we're going to interrogate our prisoner who has been defacing the walls around Rome. Yes, we're going to be torturing Emerson Matsuuchi, designer of
the scoundrel Emerson Matsuuchi.
Foundations of Rome. And then we're going to finish off with our Babble section, which we're actually just going to talk about our top 5 games from that were released in 2019. Why was I going to say 2015?
That was yesteryear.
Yeah, so before we go on, let's say hello to our prisoner down in the dungeon. Hello, Emerson!
Hello there,
Emerson Matsuuchi. We are pleased to have you in our dungeon, and we will allow great freedom in our torturing of you.
Oh yes, it's a pleasure to be in your dungeon.
Yeah, all kidding aside, Emerson, wow, what a treat to have you on the show. I've gotten to know you and met you at many conventions I remember the first time was at a Dice Tower dinner and meeting you. And,
yes.
Just was this moment where I thought, man, I really like that guy. That is just a genuine human being that I just really appreciated. And then from there, many times we've played several prototype games with Brian Pope and the Arcane Wonders and yourself, and have even gotten you to try some of our Burke's Happy Mouth signature spice.
Yes. In fact, I'm actually planning to use the last of it tonight because I'm on my 3rd pack of it, and I'm doing a little pork tenderloin for tonight.
Oh,
I'm going to use it as a spice rub for it.
It's perfect.
It's phenomenal,
tenderloin.
By the way, my kids love it.
Oh, cool. Well, when you need more, I know a guy. Yes, I am growing the beard, and it keeps my face and my neck warm. It's only 5 below 0 Fahrenheit in Minnesota right now. Dice Odyssey.
Yeah, it's 55 here, Fahrenheit here. Yes, and I only grow my beard just before my birthday, and then I can shave it off and be young again. So it's,
Are you still living in France, Barry?
I'm still in France, yes. Yes, where all the other pond drinkers live.
So, Barry, tell us a little bit about what's been happening in your neck of Babblot.
My neck of Babblot has been, wow, the south end of Babblot is busy as always. There's people everywhere. And luckily, I just get to stay in my little room here, and I get to create sound. And I've just finished and released my Abyss soundtrack, which is now available for you to download or stream from Spotify and Deezer and iTunes, wherever you want to listen to it. And it's it's the official board game soundtrack for the game Abyss or Conspiracy Abyss Universe, which is out at the moment. And so, yeah, I am wrapped up in sound and music still. I'm trying to review games. They're coming out very, very slowly, the reviews, maybe like one every 2 weeks. That's because I am still working on soundtrack for Descent into Avernus, which is a Dungeons and Dragons adventure. I just had an email today about the starting of the new 7th Continent soundtrack, which I've got to start doing soon. I'm also working on the Titan soundtrack for Holy Grail Games Kickstarter game. And so it's like I've now got my finger in 3 pies, and then the reviewing's on the side. So I apologize for my reviewing fans. So yes, it's hectic and it's busy, and it's a new year.
Well, I got to tell you, when I saw you post one of the soundtracks before you officially released the entire Abyss Conspiracy soundtrack, and I listened to it, I had about 15 minutes in the morning, and I just I started listening to it, and then I kept listening to it because it kept getting so interesting. Just the sounds, I could feel the environment, and I was just super impressed. I went and reposted it all over the place just because I was so impressed with what you did with that, Barry. I just think it was fantastic, and really, really well done. Really proud of you.
Thank you.
I hope people enjoy it and get a chance to listen. That's the key, is just people listen to it. I think they'll find something special there.
Yeah, it's just a journey underwater, and hopefully it ties in. Well, for me, it ties in with the artwork from the games, and a little bit of the gameplay as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's cool. We installed an overhead LED light in our game room, and it has a Bluetooth speaker in it, and maybe something of things to come in the future for game toppers. Ooh. But what we love to do is create a little bit of ambiance. Of course, the topper and the thematic game mats, but then you get these soundscapes that are going on as well, and it's like everything. It's helping upgrade that gaming experience.
Cool stuff. Well, what have you been up to, my kingness of king toppers?
Well, it's been a while since we've had shows, and it's had a lot to do with the holiday season, the convention season. We both had the opportunity to go to BGG Con.
Wow, yeah.
And what a fantastic time I was able to have with Barry coming to the United States, going to BGG Con, just enjoying his company. We'd made a 2-day road trip from Minnesota to Dallas. He flew home. We came home for Thanksgiving. Went to PAX Unplugged. Drove 2.5 days out to Philadelphia. We get home, and what was interesting, before all of this happened, big news with my family is my 2 oldest daughters both had babies within 10 days.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
I'm a grandpa now 4 times over. Hannah, my oldest, who does a lot of our graphics work for Board Game Theater and Game Toppers, and that they have the historical costume company. She had her 3rd baby boy, Charles. And then my second daughter, Maddie, had her first baby, Felicity Joan. And they're both just sweet little babies, both healthy. Moms are doing really well. and now they're adjusting to, motherhood, and it's just such a great joy seeing the family doing well like that. That was a big moment for us.
Big family.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. The conventions went really great. PAX Unplugged, we had a large 20-foot booth there with our overhead 8-foot by 10-foot tall balloon top hat. And again, we just got to meet so many fantastic people there. And when we got home, you'd think we'd be able to take a break, but we literally were home one day, and our 45-foot high container, our first container of game mats, arrived. And so we were right in the heat of trying to get fulfillment out before Christmas. We didn't quite make it before Christmas. We delivered over 800 units the couple days right after Christmas. We worked all through the holiday so that we could fulfill all those mats. And now people are getting all their premium Game Topper mats and just thrilled. This is a little bit of a Game Topper promo thought, but one thing we've done is we're working with affiliates now. So game stores can get Game Toppers in their game stores, and they can resell our Game Toppers. Well, we're going to do this with our thematic game mats as well. And this was kind of cool. We've got these sample game mats that we'll be able to make like kiosks so people can flip through the mats so they can actually see them. I'm going to give you some close-ups. This is our terrain green with the 1.25 hex grid. This is our brand new high-resolution wood grain mat.
On low resolution TV, yeah.
Yeah. This one here was like crazy popular on our Kickstarter. This is the new Ryan Lockett mat.
Oh.
It's gorgeous.
Isn't it? Isn't that beautiful? It's just super class, just like Ryan. We did our fantasy mat. And if you could see the details of the things going on in these mats, they are just so cool. This was one of they're all my favorites. Our dungeon mat was one that was very popular for playing D&D, 1-inch squares.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We sold a lot of those at the BGG Con. They were very popular.
This one here is our new Scythe-inspired mat. And asked Jamie Stegmeyer from Stonemeyer Games if we could create this Scythe-inspired mat, and he allowed us to do this. And we just say that it's not an official Stonemeyer project, it's a Game Topper project. But you can see this artwork is just stellar.
That reminds me of like Mike Menzel's style of artwork.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of his style.
We're going to talk about that in the future. We're actually going to be having a designer mat Kickstarter. This here was our Viking mat. This is the last one I'll show you.
Oh.
This was beautiful. Our #1 selling mat. And this is from the artist Yaroslav Radecki, who did the artwork for Reavers of Midgard.
Oh, okay. Yes, I was going to say. That does remind me of like Champions of Midgard.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. And that was our #1 selling mat. And we're actually going to be doing a designer mat Kickstarter coming up in the second quarter. April, May is a tentative date where we're going to be have some top name board game artists. Currently, Vincent Dutrait is already working on one of them. Yaroslav Radecki, who did the Scythe inspired mat, the fantasy, and the Viking, is working on a mat we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I could go on and talk about this stuff. It's just so fun to see people get these mats, get so jazzed about them. Yeah. And anybody can order a Game Topper mat now, and it'll be shipped out in 2 or 3 days. So the turnaround is that quick, and we have good stock, and we have another full container coming shortly. And a lot of our other fulfillment of our Game Toppers product is all mostly ahead of schedule. Some things right on time, some a little ahead of time, and some real close too. So everything's going really, really well overall for Game Toppers. So we're super excited about that.
Oh, that's great. Vincent Dutrait is definitely one of my favorite artists as well.
Cool. He's doing an Asian theme, Matt, for us.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
And it's gonna be ancient China. So it's gonna have some of those really cool, where you could play all kinds of different, thematic games and bring out that theme so wonderfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it.
This is the Board Game News, where King Berkey reflects on some of the current things happening in the board game industry. Some may be good, some may be bad, but they're all things that made our king go,
Hey. Things that make us go,
Things that make you go,
Yes, things that make me go, and I would appreciate your guys' feedback on this, but one thing that made me go, in fairly recent news was the announcement from Fantasy Flight Interactive. Fantasy Flight Games has shut down its interactive division and laid off employees in its role-playing game division, according to ICV2. But it's continuing to publish RPGs, according to the reporting. News of the shutdown of Fantasy Flight Interactive came through first LinkedIn post by an interactive studio head, Tim Garriston, last Monday. He says, "It's with great sadness that I have to report that the decision was made to close Fantasy Flight Interactive next month," he wrote. "I'm proud of the team and the game that we dedicated ourselves to for the past 4 years." When you read this report by ICV2, it also goes on in the end, and it ended the report with this, which made me go, interested in your feedback here, but it says there were also layoffs in Fantasy Flight's role-playing game division, according to social media posts, including longtime senior role-play game producer Tim Huckleberry. I'll be your Huckleberry.
Gee, Miss Lucy.
But Fantasy Flight will continue to release RPGs. A company spokesman declined comment on the Fantasy Flight Interactive shutdown or the RPG layoffs, but did confirm that all 4 of the previously announced RPG products planned for the next few months, including Genesis Secrets of the Crucible, L5R RPG Sins of Regret, L5R RPG Path of Waves, L5R RPG Game Mat, and Star Wars Age of Rebellion, Starships and Speeders will be released, and all 3 of these product lines are still ongoing. Okay, kind of a long news release there, sorry. But I am nothing if I am not concise.
And long in the tooth.
long in the mouth.
In the mouth.
Well, I found the thing that made me go is like, okay, so they're shutting down the interactive. I know that they're tied together with Asmodee. Asmodee has a significant interactive studio, digital studio. The RPGs are still going to be ongoing, but they don't have staff for it. Is L5R not worth it to them to continue to support it after this if they don't have staff, or are they just rolling out what they have done? What are your thoughts on that?
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead, Emerson. Thank you.
Okay. The first thing is that because I used to work in software development and mergers and things like that happen, so with Asmodee getting acquired, one of the first things that I see with acquisitions is that they'll do an analysis to see where there's duplication of staff and so forth. So it could be that Fantasy Flight Interactive, there's a lot of overlap, and perhaps like Asmodee Interactive, if they still have a digital studio, is that they see redundancy there. So that could be one impetus as to why they would want to lay off one side of it to reduce costs and obviously have a better bottom line. And then on the RPG side, and I'm wondering if they're taking the same methodology with the RPG side, perhaps they have staff that can take over for the RPG. They don't need a dedicated staff if they feel like the manpower that they have dedicated for that may not be justifying it in terms of sales and things like that. So a lot of times these mergers will oftentimes result in someone higher up taking an overall view of the whole company and then deciding, okay, well, where's our best profit centers? Where are the areas that are kind of lingering? What do we want to do in terms of making our bottom line as good as possible? Because I believe they still answer to shareholders.
Yeah. That was primarily what I figured what was happening when it came with the layoff announcements. That seems pretty typical, and sharp for them in some regards. The other thought that I was wondering, and this is probably enters into speculative talk, but are they going to continue to put the same emphasis into those products, role playing? We're seeing a lot of role playing products really take a lot of market share now. You're starting to see a lot of really interest in it. So I was curious about that in light of the announcement.
Well, for me, Fantasy Flight is not really renowned for its role playing. It's primarily for their board games and their big licenses. So I mean, when you first said it, I thought, yeah, that makes sense. The RPGs are probably not selling well, and so they're going to lay off people for that kind of in that area. But as Emerson said, if Asmodee have all of the resources that they need, then then it just seems like they're just shifting everything to the Asmodee base, which is a shame because for the interactive department, it's good to have them in-house because then they're getting all the graphics straight away, they're getting all the rules straight away, and then it's not being relayed to someone else in another office who has to then program it and overlay the graphics. So yeah, it's interesting, but as we know, it's a conglomerate now, so it's like cutting back and saving the pennies and trying to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, I know that we're speculating on these things, but the impact to the actual consumer is that, okay, well, what is the level of support that we're going to see going forward? And that's what I would probably be most concerned about. For instance, within our gaming group, Mansions of Madness is one of our favorite games, and that has a very strong it's a required digital component. And now that Fantasy Flight Interactive may not be its own entity, now we wonder, well, are we going to still continue to see support? What changes in the quality of service are we going to see? Are we going to see changes? How is it going to impact our overall experience going forward? And that's the big question that as a consumer and as a fan of Fantasy Flight games, that's the questions we want to ask and we want answered.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've done such a good job, I think, of that. There's just a lot of Fantasy Flight product that we love, so I totally agree. Well, I think that's about all we probably need to talk about in this segment. So we're going to move on to our sponsor, which we're so fortunate to have Arcane Wonders sponsoring the Berkey and Badger board game Babble podcast.
The city-building board game Foundations of Rome puts you in the role of an architect, competing to own land and build magnificent structures. Build doomuses, fountains, foundries, and more to increase your renown, gain glory for yourself and the Empire. With 96 wonderfully detailed miniatures in the base game, Foundations of Rome is a testament to the glory of Rome that you can bring to the table. Thanks to Emerson.
Exactly, and I think we're going to take a little extended sponsorship time here. We've worked with Arcane Wonders, love the team at Arcane Wonders, Brian Polp and Walter Barber and Robert Geislinger now is the new sales manager, and the rest of the team, just a wonderful group of people that we just dearly love and respect, the type of products and commitment they bring to gaming. But this particular product is by far my most anticipated game of 2021 when it's expected to come out. Currently, it's on Kickstarter right now, and you can go in there. It launched yesterday, and there was a $50,000 funding goal, And within just barely over 24 hours, it reached over 400% funded. Over $200,000 has already been funded. And when you go to this Kickstarter page and you actually see what is involved, it's crazy flipping awesome. And you can see why I'm excited about what they have done. They have pulled out all the stops. This is beautiful. It's amazing. And then with the pedigree that we have with Emerson Matsuuchi designing the game and the credibility he brings to it, along with the development team at Arcane Wonders that is also very careful and very attention to detail orientated, I think this is just going to be a fantastic product.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Emerson, let's digress just a hair from the Kickstarter and come right back to it. But you've been designing games for how long?
At a serious capacity, probably 8.5 years now.
Wow, 8.5 years. What was your first published game?
It was a self-published game, and it was a small little card game called Tricks and Treats.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And that was released in 2013.
Wow. I haven't heard of that, actually.
Yes. It's a very small. It was a very small print run.
I think when I first met you was just after a lot of the success of Spectre Ops.
Yes.
I think that's... I looked up a few of them, and I know what you're recently probably most famous for is Century Spice Road.
Yes.
And then, of course, the expansions. I absolutely love the Golem edition, Century Spice. I like the main one too, but I like this real well. I haven't gotten a chance to play the other one yet, but is it the mountains or?
Yes, Eastern Mountains.
Eastern Mountains, yes. Which I'd like to take a look at. But then you did Reef.
Yes.
Reef was super fun, family weight type of game, but still a lot of nice, fun choices. Beautiful production. I saw that you did Volt.
Yes.
So are there any other main titles that I'm missing, or?
Well, I think you
Metal Solid,
all the main
Solid.
Oh,
it's not out yet.
It's not out yet. Correct. It's not out yet.
Well, there's a long list of games you've designed. When I was looking, I go, oh my goodness, this guy has really done a lot of stuff. And
well, especially there's a good chunk of like promos and things like that when you look at the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, these are some amazing accomplishments and highly regarded games. I mean, with the success of Century Spice Road, that's got to have been a real encouragement to you to be able to pursue this as a career, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So you're doing this full time now?
Yeah, it's now become full time.
How long have you been full time?
That's a really, really interesting question, and I know that a lot of designers have like a specific date or at least a month by which they could say I became full time at this particular point. But for me, I was always doing software development, and I was doing it on a consulting basis.
Okay.
And the reason I got into designing board games was that due to outsourcing of software development, the number of contracts that my business partners and I were getting were starting to diminish. And so I was looking, okay, well, what are some things I can do in between these contracts? Because I'll have a project for 3 months here, another one for 6 months, but then I got a 3-month gap in the year. So what do I do with that time? And my initial thought was, well, let me do something I really, really enjoy. Let me pursue something that I've always wanted to do, was to like design games. So I decided, well, let me do that in between these contracts. But as the years went on, the amount of time between these contracts started to get more and more. And so at some point, the contracts just sort of like dwindled away, and I kind of transitioned slowly into doing game design full time. But I can't really nail a very specific date by which I've decided that was the date I was going to go full time. It was a much more of a soft transition into it.
Well, that's fantastic. It's I got to believe that just meeting you and talking to you as much as I have, which isn't extensive or anything, but I can tell that you love this.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's one of those things that I said that when I was going to retire, that this is what I'll be doing when I retire, is that I will be pursuing game design. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Arcane Wonders, for the great support of Berkey and Badger, but also bringing Emerson onto the team, because I think this Kickstarter. Well, let's talk about Foundations of Rome a little bit. I've seen some of the prototype of the product. I actually have a copy coming here so that we're going to be able to actually take a look at it. I've read some things about it, but I haven't actually played the game. But in looking at what's going on and reading about it, I'm really excited about it. Why don't you give us a little overview of the game and what's happening there?
Okay, sure. So our goal for this game was to create a family weight city building game. And so I took a long time just to try to find a set of mechanisms that can be taught in a very short amount of time. And in fact, I think we're using Ticket to Ride as sort of like our role model as to the type of weight of, at least in terms of the rule sets, the type of complexity we want for the player. So in this game, much like Ticket to Ride, there's only 3 things that you can do. Each of the 3 things that you can do on your turn are very, very simple, and you're only doing one of those 3 things each turn, so that the turns go by very, very quickly. And the 3 things are: you can take income, so you can get money, and if you have income buildings on the board, you can get more money, which is good, because the second thing you could do is you could use that money to actually buy lots. So they're basically plots of land on a gridded board, and then you would put your ownership token to show that you own that lot. And now that you've bought those lots, the third thing that you can do is you could put a building on the board. And there are 3 types of buildings that you can have. So it's strange. It's got the magic number 3 in this particular game. So everything kind of comes in 3s. So the one type is, like I mentioned before, if you have a income building, a commercial building, or the ones that have the little coin icons, means that it's going to give you more income. The second type is the one with the people, which you've displayed right now. That one gives you population, and that's a very basic majority scoring. If you play with the base rules, it's majority scoring, and whoever has the most population gets a bonus.
Okay.
All right, so that's really simple. And then the third type of building is the interesting one. These are the ones that will actually score for the buildings next to them. And it doesn't matter if it's your buildings or your opponent's buildings. So you can have your buildings benefit from your opponent's buildings. And that's where like the really interesting interactions can come into play. So just those 3 things you can do. You can just get money, spend the money to get lots, and you can build on the lots.
What's the average play time?
About 45 minutes to 90 minutes, I would say. But most of the plays, even at 5 players, have been around an hour.
Okay, that's excellent. It seems like there's a lot of demand for that type of time space in a game. Yeah,
I think that's sort of like the sweet spot. I think that an hour isn't an overly overbearing commitment of time.
Well, I remember it was at Dice Tower Con in July last year that I saw the first rendition of the box. This here was like a washing machine box. We could fit 3 Emerson Matsuuchis in there,
and 5 copies of Ticket to Ride in it.
It was this big honking box, and it was pretty funny. Yeah. But at that time, the scale of the miniatures were a little bit larger, and you were, fleshing out. Hey, we want to trick this baby out. This is not going to be a little cardboard chit game. Yeah. This is going to be massive, amazing, so much fun to play.
I'll share a little bit of an inside joke that I had. So I used Photoshop, and I took an image of Foundations of Rome in that ridiculously sized box, and then I put it next to another city building Kickstarter called Big City, if you remember that one.
Okay.
So, and that was also like a miniatures city building kind of game. So kind of in the similar market. And this was all internal. Like I didn't spread or share this out, but I just wanted to share the story. Is that just as a joke, I sent this to Brian and Walter, and I put on one side, I put "Go Big," so it was right above Big City. So I said "Go Big," and then I had an oversized image of the Foundations of Rome box, and I said "Go Big" or "Go Rome."
That's great.
Yeah,
yeah, that's it was hilarious.
Goes Omus. No.
Well, I remember we were having dinner with Tom Vassell, and you brought that box in, and it's like you had to have a whole chair just to hold the box.
What do you mean? That was my chair.
That was your throne. Well, it's amazing what the team has done with the production value of this thing.
Yeah.
It does look really, really gorgeous.
Yes, it does. And once the game board is full with all the pieces, that's it's one of those games that really incentivizes players to take a picture of it. And I think that was part of the appeal. I think that was fully intentional on Arcane Wonders' part to do that.
Well, even looking at the storage solution on how the components fit into these trays when you take the box apart.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just again, I think it's a testament to what I know about Arcane Wonders. They agonize. I know Brian is he agonizes over getting it right. He wants to do the best that he can do, and so they put a lot of that attention to detail, and it's really obvious to me when you look at this Kickstarter. Just so Robert and Walter and Stefan and John and the team has really done an amazing job.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the production and how the whole project has been run. It's been fantastic.
One thing that's going to be coming up soon that Game Toppers is going to be involved in helping make a Italian Roman themed game mat for Foundations of Rome. And you're going to see some stuff coming out of that. So it'll be a 3mm premium stitched edge mat, just like what we're doing, from the same artist who did our Viking mat.
Nice.
And we're going to have some super fun taking Foundations of Rome and being able to play that on that game mat and then offer that to backers as well.
Very nice.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, with that, I think we've kind of talked. You can find out about Foundations of Rome at Kickstarter right now. Arcane Wonders, you can go to arcanewonders.com or Arcane Wonders Facebook page, and you can join in on that Kickstarter now. We definitely encourage you to do that. So with that, we are going to move on to our game show segment. What game is behind the door?
Welcome everybody to What Game is Behind the Door. In this segment, will we put in our special guest to the test by asking them 3 questions. Questions like, what was the last game that they purchased? What is the game they're most excited about getting? And what is their favorite game right now? Berkey and Badger will have to figure out what these answers are by asking questions in particular styles. Let's find out if Berkey and Badger can get 3 out of 3 or fall flat on the floor like a floundering thingy.
This is the fun part of the show where we get to pose questions to our guest, and hopefully you watching can join in and write some comments what you think the answers are. So 3 questions we're going to ask. First question is going to be what was the last game that Emerson purchased? And we're going to do this in a kind of 20 questions kind of way where we'll ask him a question each and he'll say yes or no, and then in between our 2 questions he will show us a component. So we're going to do this 5 times with 5 components, 10 questions, and we'll try and nail down what this game is that Emerson has just bought for himself.
Yeah.
Not
do your worst, Emerson. Do your worst.
All right. You start with the questions or the components?
We do a question each, and then you show us a component, and then we do a question each, component, cycle.
Got it.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
And of course, my standard question then, first question from Berkey is it in a Ticket to Ride size box?
No, it is not.
Hey, no Ticket to Ride box.
Okay.
Is
it in a...
Hey, that's...
Is it in a normal-sized Foundations of Rome box?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Nothing is in the normal Foundations of Rome size
So
box.
blows
Right,
those
right.
two sizes out. That was a good start for us.
My understanding
I love how
about
it's the only
that.
one, but now it's a standard size.
My understanding about that Foundation of Rome box, so they made it so that it would fit inside a calyx shelf, I think, right?
Yes.
So they actually made sure that it would fit within those spaces, which is pretty
Yes.
cool. Anyway,
But that space is normally meant for like 4 or 5 games.
it's awesome.
Okay, so we're going to go to component number 1.
All right, component number 1.
Is
Ew, it's a block.
it's a yellow block.
We all live in a yellow block of stuff.
Okay, now I'm gonna make my first guess. I'm gonna say, is it La Boca?
No, but it is really close.
Wow. It looks like a component from Estates. From Capstone Games.
Yeah, those are cubes, though, I believe.
Are they cubes? It's not that long.
Yes.
The yellow caught me there. Okay, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, all right. Question number 2 then. Is this a dexterity game?
Mostly no. But there is a slight dexterity component where... Am I allowed to explain?
Please do.
Yeah.
Okay.
We like it.
So-
we like it when you give
So
us
there
the-
is a slight dexterity component in that if you knock it over, you're not going to score points. But it's not generally a dexterity game.
All right. That's interesting.
Although if you play with me, I turn it into a dexterity game.
Okay.
Okay, Barry.
Okay. Is this a recent release within the past 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Very recent.
Very recent. Okay. Okay.
He's giving us a lot of extra clues. And,
Yeah.
We like.
In fact, I might be one of the first ones to have this.
Ooh.
ooh.
So let's have a look at component number 2.
Well, la-ti-da.
All right.
right.
Number 2. Okay. Well, I need 5 components. So I'm going to have to drip feed you some more.
Well, the front cover of the board game would be okay for a component if you want to show it.
Okay. Well, let me do this one. Okay. So let me do this one here.
Okay, it's a card. It has 4 squares. It looks like an H, 2 in the middle, 4 on each side. It looks like it's kind of like a placement grid.
With a number 3, probably 3 points. So it's a
Oh, it seems like Capstone had a game.
Oh, you're thinking of climbers.
Oh, I'm thinking of Climbers. That's what I'm thinking of. It's not that. That's not that recent.
No. I
Okay.
can't think of anything.
Okay. Third question, I guess. Is it, what do we do now? Is it a Euro?
No.
That's exactly what Trent says. Trent thinks it's junk art, but I'm not gonna say anything. Okay, it's dexterity. So what's this other component? If it's not just dexterity, is there a bidding auction mechanism?
No. Otherwise, it would be a Euro.
Would it? I've got some Ameritrash games which have got bidding in.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. Okay. Component number 3. Sorry, I'm drifting off there. I was just trying.
No,
Yeah.
no worries. Okay.
Thinking of
Component number 3.
Masterpieces of Ameritrash, but
Okay, this one I'll have to twirl around a little bit.
it's a white dice with a question mark,
Nice that question mark.
and it's
Little block colors,
it's got
shapes.
the Tetris shapes on it. So obviously you roll the dice, and that gives you the piece that you have to take, and then you have to play it onto your card to score points. Okay.
I do not know what this is, so my gosh. Is this a North American design or is this a European design?
Yes, North American.
North American. Okay.
Okay, and I didn't see anything when I was looking through my 2019 games, so question is going to be how many Tetris pieces are there? Oh, that's not a yes or no question. That's not a yes or no question. Sorry, skip that.
Yes.
Wow. I am so out of touch with board games. It's incredible. I'm going to go with is this a designed by a prolific, well-known designer?
Oh. Not that well known.
Not that well known.
Not that well known.
Okay.
All right.
So-
Component.
Number 4.
Component number 4.
Because I was thinking of that lift-off game, but that's got pieces with holes in it, so you can pick them up with a crane. Okay. You have a card with some kind of really cute kind of Lego man builder.
I saw this. Yeah, this construction guy. Yeah. Got a top hat. Oh, I saw this. I saw this at PAX, I think.
Yes.
Oh, it's something like that even, I think, like construction.
Mm-hmm.
Construction.
Conjunction.
Yeah, construction, conjunction. What's your function? Construction world.
Construction world.
Construction day.
Is that your final answer?
I want all of these, but I'm just going to keep throwing out words. It's something like that. Now, I do remember seeing it, but okay.
Okay.
I'm half there.
It was at PAX.
It was at
correct.
PAX.
Yes, it was at PAX. I'm pretty sure you've probably seen it there.
I think I did. In fact,
Well, before I show component number 5, how about if I give you a quick hint?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Is that you may have seen the giant size version at PAX. Will that ring a bell?
Maybe. I don't know. I get doing so much that it's hard to keep track of anything anymore.
Yeah. This is a tough one.
Yeah, especially there's the construction game, the Lego construction game.
Is it like Men at Work or something like that?
You're close. You are close because Men at Work did have wooden pieces. It had a dexterity element.
And they came from a land down under.
It was also North American.
Well, I think
you've stumped us.
We're kind of close,
Yeah.
but we're just kind of speculating. Why don't we just let you? You stumped us on this one. We'll give you one here. You can tell us what it is.
Well, how about if I show you the 5th component? It's the game board.
Ooh.
That's the game board.
And it's a room with the Tetris shapes. No, it's a work site with a scoreboard around the outside.
It's a work site.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like a.
You should be able to guess the name of the game from this.
Work site. Lotus.
Work zone. Work zone.
Lotus. Lots.
Close.
Lots.
Lot. The game is called Lots.
Okay.
Do you see how the
Lots.
Tetris pieces actually makes the
word.
actual title of it? LOTS.
Yeah. Very clever.
Wow. So tell us what made you want to buy that, and tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, it is a really good family weight game where you are stacking pieces. It's a communal, so you're building it together. Okay, this building, and you're going to get. There you go. That's the one. It's a competitive tower building game. So players are building one building, and hopefully, let's show you a picture. There you go. So you could see all the players are building this, and you're going to score points based on the colors that are next to the piece that you place down. So some cards will allow you to score points when you're placing the piece next to different colors. But most of the time, you're going to score points for having the pieces touching the same colored pieces. You also score 5 points each time you complete a level of it. And so you're always looking at what your opponents have to see if they can complete a floor, and you want to make sure that you don't complete it. And these pieces, they actually had a giant size version where they had giant foam size, like really big foam size pieces, and people were making the giant size versions of it.
I remember seeing it on like an end cap. Kind of midway through the hall. What's the company that's producing it?
It's Royal N Games.
Royal N Games.
Yeah, that's a small company.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, let's move on to part number 2.
Yes.
What game are you most excited about getting?
Can I ask?
And you are going to draw us an image, and we are going to describe that to our podcast listeners, of course.
Right.
Barry's going to do color commentary.
Okay. I was going to ask, what made you buy Lots? Why did you want it?
Oh, let's see. It's I've playtested this, so I got a chance to playtest it, and it was a game that I really enjoyed. Mostly because I turned it into a dexterity game for other people, because the rules say that if you place a piece and you knock the building over, you don't score points for that. So, and because I'm a jerk, I usually place pieces in precarious positions to make it difficult for the next. So there's some emergent strategies, you could say.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun trolling other people on their turns. But of course, it always backfires because it gets to my turn, and now the structure is now in an even more precarious position.
Oh, okay.
So, all right,
I didn't know that about you.
Yes. Despite what people say, I'm really a jerk.
If they only knew.
Yes. So back to the
I'm
drawing.
going to try my best to draw this.
Yeah. I'll draw it on the desk if you need to. You don't need to draw it in front of the camera, and then you can just show it afterwards.
Oh, but it's more fun this way, right?
You can do it like a teacher. Okay, so I need to go big screen. It looks like a duck. Ooh, it was a duck, and now it's turned into a penguin's head with wings stretching out. No, it's not a penguin. Oh, it's a wing.
It's Cthulhu. Cthulhu, death may die.
Wow. That was quick.
That was quick.
I was halfway done with the duck.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
How did you get that from
Well,
this?
I've seen these images of Cthulhu coming out of the
wazoo,
the mist and all of that, and you were actually drawing that pretty accurately with the wings coming out and then the tentacles coming out of his mouth, and it looked just like the artwork. And in fact, I just got my copy from Cool Mini or Not from Simon. Come on. And I'm really excited about it. I haven't got to play the game. We're going to be talking about top games of 2019, and
yes.
I'm hearing some people like Jamie Kagi, Secret Cabal Gaming podcast, good friend of mine. He said that was his top game of the year. Spoiler alert.
Right. But, yes.
My goodness, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does. And I value if Jamie from Secret Cabal says it's good, I always listen.
Right. And of course, you've got Eric Lang behind it, right?
He's one of my favorite designers too. So I have Blood Rage over here. I got Rising Sun right there. So I got Blood Rage. Yeah, exactly. Blood Rage is still one of my favorite games of all time.
That's my favorite game of all time. I have a fully painted version from Robert Oren.
Oh, nice.
So I love that game.
Nice. Yeah.
So have you played Death May Die then?
No, not yet. So that's why I want to get it.
It's coming.
Now, the reason I didn't get it right away is because a good friend of mine had backed it, and he got his copy and everything like that. But for some reason, our schedules haven't really sunk up so that I could actually play it with him. So it's like, I think I'm going to get my own copy because I know I'm going to enjoy this one.
Yeah. I think it has an automaton solo mode too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Have you got that, Barry, or have you heard about it?
I have heard about it. I did a podcast in French with my French team, and one of them put that on their top 10 games for 2019, and they really, really loved it. It was their number one.
Wow.
So,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Wow. Well, that's cool. So we're 1-1 now with our prisoner. We go now to part 3. Barry, you can explain.
Okay, in part 3, we are going to ask, what is the current favourite game? Well, he's just spoiled it. It's Blood Rage. No, but it might not be.
Yes.
It might not be.
Kabuki Kid is here in Babblot, and Trent Turner and a couple others.
Kabuki Kid.
Kabuki Kid is here. She's fantastic. She says she's at work and won't be typing much.
Type the answers.
Well, because I saw Blood Rage on Berkey's shelf right there, I knew I couldn't pick Blood Rage. That would just be too easy.
Yeah.
That would be just far too easy.
But yeah.
So I had to pick something, because also one of the things you said was it's a game that I've been either playing a lot recently or been thinking about recently. So there has been a game that I've been playing and thinking about very recently. And it is a game that I've really enjoyed for a long time. In fact, this copy right here has got at least 50 plays.
Ooh.
Wow.
Not all of them are with me though, because this was a heavily borrowed game too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so how's this going to work, Barry?
Well, Emerson's going to give us 5 one-word clues, and we'll have a chance to guess in between each word, and see if we can pinpoint what it is. But how devious is his devious wordplay?
Okay.
He's very clever. He's very clever.
Is Mr. Baldrick there?
Okay. All right. So I get to pick 5 words. First word. Mines.
Mines. It's a mine.
A mine or a mind, ending with a D or an E?
Mines.
E-S. Mines is in mine.
Mines, like mines.
Enemy
Yes.
mines.
Well, that could be or. So I will take a shot in the dark guess right off the top of the bat here. This could be the home run. This could win it for us there, Badger.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say scythe.
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm going to say.
But that's a great game too.
I'm going to say abyss because it's mines.
Those are actually pretty good guesses, but no.
No, you liar.
Okay.
Abyss was a load of crud.
Do you guys get to ask yes/no questions?
No, you're just giving us one word
Okay.
clues.
So this one's a tough one for you guys.
You can't use the title of the game, and you can't use the designer. So you can't say Emerson or you can't say Matsuuchi.
Gotcha. All right. Next one.
I gotta say, Emerson, you have like a radio voice. I mean, you could be doing live radio and I mean, you've got that voice. You could be doing football games.
I was thinking like late night kind of chat show. Hello.
Yes.
Welcome
Yes.
to.
So
He could do a chat show.
Yeah.
This is-
I've been told I could be a jazz station radio host.
Yeah, you
I've been
got
told that on several occasions, and
You got that-
it's very flattering.
that
So thank
Barry
you.
White sound.
All right. Next word is espionage.
Espionage.
Yeah, no.
That's a big word.
I can't spell it, but hey ho.
Mines and espionage. Mines.
In a mine. In a mine.
It's a mine. Espionage, though.
I would say Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. No.
This is one of his favorite games, though. Okay. Espionage.
Well, thank you, Kabuki.
It couldn't be Clank, could it?
Kabuki's having
No.
Kabuki thinks it's Governor.
Not bad, but no.
Okay.
No.
At the moment, I can't think of any mines games with espionage, so I'm gonna pass.
All right. Next word. Scientist.
What's that game where you're making a bomb? Worker placement. I can't think of the title.
Did you just say something after espionage?
Scientist.
Yes. Scientist.
Scientist, sorry.
Where did you
Squirrel,
go, young man?
squirrel. Yeah, I only get about 150 emails a day. Okay, scientist, espionage, mines. Scientist.
What's that game?
When I think scientist, I always think of the Manhattan
That's
Project.
the one I was thinking of.
I really like that game. That's an older game, though. It is.
It is.
I love that game.
Yes.
That's it's on my shelf here where I keep all my favorites, and I never get to play that. I want to play that.
Yeah, I got to play it a couple times recently because there's some mechanics here that I really enjoy. It's got this great feedback of putting out. Hey, Kabuki Kid got it right as well.
Oh, cool.
It's got this great feedback where you put your workers out, right? And initially you're putting out one work at a time, and then you start to build your own buildings. Now you're putting out a worker on the board, and then a bunch on your board, and then pretty soon you have this cycle where you're just putting out all your workers on your buildings, and then taking them all back, and then putting them all back out, and it's this nice little race going.
Yep, and there's a little bit of that. Take that, and you can certain buildings you can run over there and grab somebody's stuff, and
yes.
Yeah, and you've got the construction worker, the scientist, and one other guy, right?
Yep, you have your scientist. You have I call them Silent Hill workers, but it's a video game reference. If you're familiar with the video game Silent Hill, I actually had to stop playing that game because I encountered these figures. They look like children, but they had no face, and it disturbed me so much I had to stop playing. But then if you notice that the workers in Manhattan Project, they have no face, so I call them the Silent Hill workers.
Wow. The Silent Hill workers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so you have your engineer, your scientists, and your Silent Hill workers.
Okay. Now, they made a card version of that or something, didn't they?
Yes, they did. I didn't play that one because it didn't seem as well received, but I did play Energy Empire, which is also really good.
Oh, Energy. Yes. That's right. That's what I was thinking of,
I still have yet to play Manhattan Project 2, which is different from Energy Empire. But Energy Empire is really good as well.
I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
Well, again, the king and the jester have taken down our prisoner. Emerson Matsuuchi has failed to top our greatness.
Yes.
And humility.
You deserve it when you got Cthulhu
from that.
Death May Die from this.
Well, it didn't start good, I can tell you that. When you had your block game, Lutz, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is, I knew you have seen it because you were at PAX, and there was a giant-sized version of it not too far from you.
Well, we're going to move right on. That was super fun. Thank you so much for sharing your life a little bit with us. And
my pleasure.
Again, the Foundations of Rome Kickstarter from Arcane Wonders. Great congratulations on the success of that. I'm super pumped, and then for enjoying the show with us. We're going to do our last segment now, which is called the Babble topic.
But just before that, this video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper. And now it's time for the Babble, 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 Berkey and Badger's Board Game Babble.
Well, we're babbling on in Babblot, and of course it's that time of year where we talk about the top games of 2019. We put together a couple questions before we're going to each talk about our top 5. I want to make a pretty major caveat is that, I don't know how many games were actually designed in 2019. Do you have any idea of what that number might be, Emerson?
Oh, I do not.
There's about 50
have-
pages on Board Game Geek of games.
Yeah, I heard somebody make a comment that there was 5,000 games, and I thought, I don't think that fact is right, and they were kind of estimating how many total games have been made, but I thought it was something like 1,800 new games.
Right. There's a lot of times there's re-releases, there's expansions, things like that could also occupy one of those slots for for 2019. So it's really hard to gauge. Like, I think you asked a good question: how many were designed, like new design games are released in 2019? And I don't have a good gauge of that. There might be a way to data mine Board Game Geek to try to figure out, okay, make sure it's not an expansion, make sure it's not a promo.
Yeah, would you do that for us, please? Would you data mine that for us? I mean, how fortunate are we to have a site like Board Game Geek that actually has all that data, right?
Yes.
It's like
the Board Game
wonderful.
Geek is a great resource to find things.
Well, I think for me, of course, I'm in a little bit different stage of life with Game Toppers and the amount of work that I'm doing. We're right in the middle of fulfillment, and we're working really hard to make sure all of that goes. So all of my priority time has been going towards work primarily. There's been very little free time. So my game playing, we got a little bit of game playing in over the holidays. So when I looked at all of the different games, and I had like tons of games on the list that I really wanted to play, didn't get time to, but I know they should be included in the list. Just based on my friends in the hobby and how I respect their opinions, and that it's not hype, it's real reviewing information. I feel honestly this year I have felt the most unqualified to have an opinion. Just because I have not had the opportunity. But then I got thinking too, you don't have to beat yourself up too much because there's so many. I don't know how anybody could get through the list.
Yeah, agreed. And I think I'm just as unqualified as you.
Well, I don't know
games.
about that. I would definitely say, I think Barry, I have great respect for Barry and the post-production work that he does, the production time that he puts into his own board game videos. Like he said, he only was able to get a couple done last month, but that's because he puts so much time into his board games everybody should website production.
Yes.
Yes. And again, it's only those games that actually do hit the table and regularly as well. So it's like, there's a lot of times, like when we went to BGG, we played like this game once and that game once and that game once, and they were like the first times for me. But it was like, okay, I can't really review it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you want to play it at several player counts, and you want to really do it justice to
absolutely.
to make a good impression and a good review. So it's not just. We do our good, the not so bad, and the ugly segment when Barry and I just do our show together, and we call it the first impressions because we just don't. I haven't, particularly myself, don't have the opportunity to play a game 5 times. It's just not happening right now. But long and short of all that, was there anything super interesting that you saw in 2019? I'm so glad you're here because I think. We can, from a player standpoint, have an idea of something we saw that we like, but is there something from a design standpoint, as a designer, that you thought was really innovative that caught your eye in 2019?
Oh, okay. It's a game that I haven't played, but I thought it was really, really interesting. It was Chronicles of Crime, their use of digital integration into the game. And now I'm a little bit biased because I have a software development background, so things like that tend to excite me more than most, I assume. So, but it was something really interesting where it's not just a QR code, but they also integrated a little bit of VR, augmented reality, and I think there's going to be some space for that within the board game hobby. Because it is going to be something it's going to enhance the experience for some gaming groups to have like a digital element that could provide something that cardboard pieces cannot. So I'm hoping to see a little bit more of that, and also to me, I would like to see things that are much less gimmicky, because there are app integrations which feel like they're kind of tacked on, or it's not quite necessary, but you could see that it's a selling point for some. But to have like really tight integration, and also to have the app really provide a very unique experience, and that's something I'm starting to see more of.
I'm assuming you enjoyed that with Mansions of Madness.
Yes. Mansions of Madness is a great example of like an app that really enhances the experience. It provides attention, provides the narrative. It provides a right level of uncertainty, because you don't know what your actions are, what the repercussions of your actions are, but then you do get to see the repercussions of those actions, and so forth. So it's great in that, and also provides a level of replayability. Now, most of the scenarios, like we've played lots of different scenarios in Mansions of Madness, and we've only played like a handful of them multiple times. So I do see, I don't know if it's implemented, but I do see ways where the app can take a scenario you've already played and randomize it so that you can always replay that same scenario and have a different experience. And that's always something that's very, very exciting, is when you have a component like that can add so much replayability to a game.
And Detective did that too with Portal Games, right?
Yes. And that's also another excellent game, which I have over here. I was actually putting together like all the games that I absolutely love, and I have Detective in one of my sections there, although I think that's a 2018 technically, so I couldn't have included it, right?
Right. Speaking of apps, I have this one game. Oh gosh, I just lost the name. I can't see it even.
Can you describe it?
It's from a game called from Ruby Games in Essen. And I haven't got to it yet, but it's let me grab it.
It's a war game where everyone's got their own phone and they pass each other messages through the phone.
I remember. It's
if I remember.
It's called Leaders.
Oh, okay.
And it's still in shrink, as you can see on my shelf of shame. But it's got all these different leaders from different eras, and everybody's headquarters is actually on their own device.
Oh, okay.
So it's got that fog of war type of thing going on. So it's not just Axis and Allies Risk type of thing. There's hidden information, and it's all organized on an app individually, which I thought that was really kind of interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, was there anything that was a real highlight of 2019 for you personally?
Oh, on a personal level?
Yeah.
2019 was a really, really good year in that I feel a little bit more justified calling myself a game designer in a certain way. I feel like I am more embedded into the industry, and now I feel that a lot of the people that I know in the industry, I can call them close friends now.
Yeah.
So on a personal level, I feel like it's been a really, really good year.
Well, I know that you're very well loved in the hobby, and a lot of great respect comes your way. Barry, did you have something in 2019 that was a specific highlight for you?
Well, there were 3, I think, and all of them included you. The UK Games Expo, Essen, and BGG-Con.
BGG-Con. Yeah, those were really great times. I was going to mention that too, this was the first year where Barry and I we've been doing this show for a little over 3 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
More than that.
That's my joke. It's actually been a little over 4 years, but I think time is fast in France. Yeah. So.
And Trent says that his highlight was working with us at BGG-Con.
Trent's in the house. Yeah, Trent, he was a backer of our campaign, and then he reached out to us to help at BGG-Con, and he was there right from the very beginning, unpacking right to the very end. Yeah. And what a trooper, wonderful fellow. Yeah,
what an upstanding guy.
What an outstanding baldric.
Well, and that's really, if I were, on a personal level, my grandchildren and those kind of things are at the top of the list, and the family's doing well and all that. But we ran our second Kickstarter for Game Toppers, and we were able to double our backers. And our first generation backers came in full force and just totally supported what we had done. They loved what we had done previously. We successfully delivered over 1,400 packages and worked really hard to do a good job for people. And we're not perfect, but when we made any mistakes or anything, we just took care of it very quickly for people, and people knew that about us. And so that was really cool. And then to see that kind of support come back, within 1 month of our Kickstarter, we actually doubled that in the late pledge manager within 1 month.
Wow.
Which is like unheard of. And that again goes to the kind of people that are in this hobby, the people that have formed this community that I am so grateful for. I could not be more grateful for all the publishers and all of the media folks and all of the backers and friends like yourself, Emerson, that have shown support. I'm overwhelmed with that. That's what really fuels me, and I'm so grateful. And that was really one of the fantastic highlights of 2019 for me.
You're here.
I think with that, was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we go to our top 5, Barry?
No. Just that some of my top 5 are games that I've played only once or twice, but they still merit being there.
Gotcha. I picked games that I had played a bit so that I could. There was one particular game I've only had an opportunity to play 3 times, but most of these games I've played quite a few times and was able to give a ranking. There was one thing that after we get through our 5, I have a couple honorable mentions that I think deserve mentioning that we might mention just for the sake of the benefit of our listeners, that if they are looking at some other games that did come out. I mean, there's a long list, of course, but they may be covered by both of you, so I won't do that initially.
Yeah, you've obviously played more games than me then.
How many games did you play in 2019, Barry? How many new games do you think you played?
From 2019, I think there's about 25 titles that I've touched. But I've been playing a lot of older games as well, so...
Yeah. How many games have you, Emerson, new games would you say you played in 19?
I'm going to say 20 or less.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
Wow. I got to play a couple games at Dice Tower Con that were this one game, Luna, we talked about a while back ago. Key Largo, an older game. But the amount of new games, most of them were ones that came to me from Kickstarter, and a couple of them that were gifted to me. So it's kind of interesting. Likewise, I don't get to play games at conventions that much anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the big drop-off for me, is that now at conventions, it's mostly work now. And in fact, PAX Unplugged is the one convention I said, hey, this is going to be my I'm not doing any work convention, because this is the one convention that everyone from my gaming group, my entire gaming group, is there.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's supposed to be like the time that I'm not going to be doing any work. But that said, though, I know Arcane Wonders, they were a little short-staffed. IDW was a little short-staffed. So I wanted to go and help them. So I did spend a little bit more time working than I had originally intended, and it was completely my choice. It wasn't that they were trying to monopolize my time. And I still have a good time demoing games and things like that. But this past year, I think that's one of the reasons why it was much more difficult to get new games to the table, just because usually the conventions are my opportunities to go and learn new games. And I love it when I sit down with a demoer who then teaches me the game, so I don't need to go through the rule book.
Yeah. I don't think I even saw you at PAX, did I?
I saw you, definitely, because I saw you at the Game Toppers section and things like that. You had the top hat and everything. It was great.
Yeah, I'm a walking logo, right?
Yeah.
Well,
but you were always busy, so I didn't want to bother you too much.
No, please, never hesitate to stop, and we'll get a picture and say hi. And I usually always have some Happy Mouse spice in my backpack. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I am literally down to my last pack now, so this is the third one that you've given me.
So we will start with the best of 2019. You heard it here first at the Berkey and Badger Board Game Babble Show. Let's start with Sir Badger, his fifth top game of 2019.
Okay, my number 5 is a game I played once, and this might be a bit of, I don't know, I don't know. But let's just say it anyway. It's a Matt Leacock game which involves buildings on a 3D board called Era Medieval Age.
Era.
It's a very simple dice building game, but you actually have a scoring element, which is the actual board itself, and you're going to be adding buildings to a three-dimensional board with little pegs, and you'll be strategically placing them out because some of them will get points by attaching buildings next to other buildings, whereas some of them will give you minus points. It was very easy to understand. Thematically, it's interesting because it's a building game, but you have like raiders come and steal resources, or you can fight each other, so to speak, but it's not really fighting each other. And of course, there are, every time you take penalties, it will count to the end of the game scoring. Really enjoyable. Takes up a lot of table, unfortunately. But yeah, a fantastic experience. One that I want to have again.
Yes, I completely agree. It's actually on my list as well. I should say it's on my short list because I have 6 on here, so it's on there as number 6. But I'm not sure if we'll get to the controversial number 1 that I have, whether it counts or not.
Okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and give us your number 5 then, Emerson?
Okay, so my number 5 is Hadara from, I believe it's Z-Man Games. And it is a very abstracted civilization building game, but it has a really nice flow to it. It's a civilization game that you can probably play in under an hour. It feels a little bit like Seven Wonders with Splendor, which are 2 games that I really enjoy. So the artwork is beautiful. It looks really great on the table, and it's a lot of fun.
All right.
That's my number 5.
So, Emerson, I'm going to write these down here.
Now, bear in mind, I haven't played many new games in 2019, so this is among the ones that I have played.
Yeah, well, that's the same gig, I think, for all of us.
For instance, I've never played Wingspan, which is a game that it's on my I need to play this game, but I just have not had the opportunity to.
Yeah, well, maybe right when we finish here, we'll talk about a few that we feel like are 2019 games that are on our wish list to play right away. If I go to my number 5, I'm going with a game from Eagle Griffin Games from one of my favorite designers and people in the industry. It's from Mike Fitzgerald, designer of Diamonds, designer of the Mystery Rummy series games, designer of my favorite 2-player board game is Baseball Highlights 2045. I love everything about that game. I love the asymmetrical back and forth. I love the artwork. I love the theme, even though you don't have to be a big baseball fan. I just love the way it plays. I love everything about it. Well, Mike came out with a new game called Football Highlights 2052. I've had the opportunity to play it at early prototype stages, which at that stage I had some questions about it, honestly. I was like, I'm not sure about that. But then I had the opportunity to play the full-blown version, and I got to play it again at PAX Unplugged with Dan King, the board game geek. And Dan and I just had this amazing playthrough that it actually went into overtime, and it came down to the very last play who won that game. And there was just something about this playing your offense, playing your defense, and counteracting that. There's a little bit of drafting, a little bit of deck building. the production quality of the actual game board and scorecard was really cool. I have one thing against the game, and that is I'm not a big fan of the actual artwork. So the actual player cards, I felt like when I played Baseball Highlights 2045 and Mookie Rivers comes out, one of my favorite cards. Oh, I just identified with the card and the player and its ability. And I don't feel that with the artwork of this game. If for some reason it's just a little too generic, and I really wish they would have brought a little more to that so that the theme of these player names would make sense in football. The names are all good, but the art just doesn't connect. But other than that, boy, I really enjoyed the game. Football Highlights 2052, Mike Fitzgerald from Eagle Griffin Games.
Okay. My number 4 is a Kickstarter game, which I've played quite a few times. It's called Museum. Goes back to this really kind of friendly, like Ticket to Ride kind of game, where it's a set collection game, but it's also placement game. But it has this resource management, because the cards that you're using are the currency, but they're also the points and also the items that you're placing into the museum. And so you're collecting these cards by paying with them and collecting them back. It's really simple. There's a lot of fantastic art from Vincent Dutrait, plus a few other artists that helped out due to the fact that Vincent was very, very busy. This is a fantastic game. I haven't played it with all the expansions yet, but I have played it, as I said, 5 times, something like that. So, yeah, really enjoying this game. Museum.
Great artwork from Vincent Dutrait, too, right?
It's a beautiful game.
That's Holy Grail Games, right? Jamie Johnson. Yeah. Fantastic. Number 4 was Museum from Badger. So Emerson, number 4.
All right, my number 4. This one I have to caveat because I've only played this one once. It is Underwater Cities.
Now, was the original game in 2019 or the expansion?
That's a good question. Is it not a 2019?
I was thinking it was 2018, but I might be wrong.
2018. It's a 2018 title.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Carry on.
But but they do have an expansion for it in. Yeah, we could have listed expansions here too. Okay, so I don't know.
All right. Well, we played it with one of the expansions, I believe. So how about we?
That's fine.
We'll make it legitimate. We'll legitimize it by saying that I played with one of the expansions. So, but yes.
There you go.
So this was a game that I know it's been talked about, and I finally got to play it, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. In this game, you are building cities underwater, as the title would lead you to believe, and the way the worker placement with the card play element is the really interesting part. So you'll have a hand of cards that have different colors. There are 3 different regions that have matching colors, so I believe it's red, blue, and green areas. If you go to a red area, you can play any card, but if you play a card that matches the color of that area, so going to a red area with a red card allows you to get the benefit of the card itself. So you're always incentivizing to match the colors of the locations you want to go. And to try to chain together the abilities. So maybe you want to go to this green spot because you don't want your opponent to get there, but you're going to get the maximum benefit if you go to the red spot first to get additional resources to be able to then activate the green spot and so forth. So there's like lots of interesting decisions. The gameplay and the building up of your city is very satisfying. There's also the engine, people call it engine building aspect, where I always call it player progression. So your abilities get stronger and stronger as the game progresses. And it has a strong sense of that in the game as well. So it's a game by, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this name right. It's Vladimir Matsuuchi?
Yeah,
Matsuuchi. So
yeah, I got to play that with Kay King and Andy were up at our home back around Kickstarter time, we actually got to play that game, and that was really, really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little heavier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it is. It is quite heavy. It's mid to heavy Euro.
Yeah, it wasn't real hard to get a hold of, but it was, it was a little meatier than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of interesting decisions every turn.
Yeah. So, Underwater Cities is Emerson's number 4, and my number 4 is, this is kind of interesting because this is kind of a redo, and so I don't know how to qualify this, or if it should be included, but we cut our teeth on the modern board game hobby with Settlers of Catan, and this is a game that I never had before, but it was called the Catan Starfarers, and they redid this game. And the production value of Starfarers is really interesting, and there's different variants that you can play this game that allows you some exploration that's a little bit different than you'd expect. Also, the building up of your spaceship with your trade post modules or your thrusters or your cannons to go and take out pirates. And then you also have these trade guilds that if you get to the trade guild first, you're able to get additional. I think the thing about Catan and this version is there's a lot of random. So I'm not saying it's the best design of the year, but for one of the games I had the opportunity to play, I just had a lot of fun. We played it several times, and it was just that next step of this beautiful game that they brought back that was really hard to find. So I really enjoyed Catan Starfarers.
Very cool. Does it still have that big rocket ship model that actually generates the resources or determines the resources?
The resources are, the movement is in the bottom of the rocket ship, and then you add your propulsion, you add your cannons. They're actually little components that actually fit.
That fit right on there. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's very satisfying, and all the movement then is based, and you have these encounters too. If one of the little black balls comes down in the bottom instead of the movement ones, then you have an encounter, and then you have a choice on this card to say, the pirates have come. Are you going to fight them, or are you going to run? Mm-hmm. And then there's consequences depending on, and there's all kinds of those type of things. So there's just enough variability going on in the game that, to me, kept me interested in it and not bored with a random just rolling dice for resources. That's still there, but I still like it.
Cool.
So, number 3, Badger.
My number 3, Keeping in Space, is a game that I've played a few times and really, really kind of adore as a kind of, it's the board game version of Lemmings. Oh no! Let's go! And it's Space Gate Odyssey, which...
Space Gate Odyssey?
Again, Vincent Dutray has provided the artwork. Not that you can see much of it on the board. It's basically the box and the rules. But it's a game where you're building a space station. And this space station, it's all done with a control panel. Basically, everyone has a worker in a control panel, and basically they will move a worker from one room to another, and that will determine the action that they do. They either collect a green tile, blue tile, or a purple tile to add to their space station, or they will make workers move from one room to another. And you're basically building up this big space station. You're teleporting these little workers into the space station, and then by using this control panel, you'll be making them go to the teleporters, which will send them to the planets to score points. It is a little bit mind-blowing at the beginning, but once you start playing, it's just like building an ant farm. And as I said, Lemmings, just trying to get these colonists from one part of the space station to different parts of the space station to score your points. And it's done, as I said, with this control panel. But the thing is, other players have their meeples there as well. So if you go into the green room, depending on how many workers you have there, determines how many of your colonists you can move on the space base to into green rooms. But also, if your other players have workers there, they can move their colonists on their space station into green rooms as well. So it's very, very, very interactive as you're fighting for these spaces on these different planets. And as I said, you're trying to build this really kind of ingenious, but kind of hamster cage to the best of your abilities to try and make it efficient to get to the planets quickly. But really, really love it. Fantastic game, as I said. It just appeals to that kind of thing of mine.
Who's the designer and publisher?
That's Cédric Lefebvre of Ludonaut, the actual owner of Ludonaut. So
Ludonaut.
Yeah, so if you know Cult Express, it's those guys.
Yeah, so who's publishing it in North America, I wonder? Ooh. I haven't heard of it.
Right. Maybe it might not be out in the States. Asmodee.
Yeah, it's Matago sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
probably.
With Ludonaut. But, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. Emerson, number 3.
Number 3 for me is Pipeline from Capstone Games.
I almost put that on my list.
Yeah, it's a very heavy economic Euro game about building a network of refining pipes, and you're taking crude oil and you're refining them. So it's got the aspect of buy low, sell high, where you're trying to buy crude oil at cheap. And there's a variable market, and the market's driven by the player's actions. So you're always constantly having to watch what other players are doing, and also selling the oil is the same as well. Is that you're building up your, I guess, engine, so to speak, in terms of being able to refine it and be as efficient as possible in terms of refining that oil and then being able to sell it. But someone can always beat you to the market on a particular type of oil. It's abstracted in that you have like the white oil, the blue oil, the green oil, or whatever, different, or the orange oil. But it's really just 3 different markets that you can sell your oil to. It has a worker, I guess it's a worker placement, but there's no real like mutual exclusive spots, so you can't block someone. But there's a tremendous amount of strategy, and if you like efficiency puzzles, then this is a game that will definitely satisfy you for a long time, because there's quite a bit of depth. It is a heavier game, so be prepared for that. And it's got fantastic artwork from Ian O'Toole, and the designer is Ryan Courtney.
Yeah, Ian O'Toole, amazing stuff. We got to play that at Con of the North last year, and I was really impressed with it. I had to leave halfway through the game to deliver a topper, sadly. And anyway, but someone took over for me for a little bit, and then I came back. But that puzzle, especially getting your pipes to all work around and get the maximized points and all that was pretty cool. Capstone Games has really been doing a fantastic job with a lot of their offerings. Yeah, so there you go, Pipeline. My number 3, this is a little game. It's a pretty simple game, but it's from AEG, which I've had the pleasure of working with the team at AEG, and I love these guys. But Kay King actually gave me this game after she played it, and she had 3D printed some little card holders for the game. But this is a small card game, and then it comes in three different piles, and it's called
Point Salad.
Point Salad. The reason I love this game is it's just like, I don't know, it's so easy to get to the table. It's so easy to play with a non-gamer, or to play with family, or that time where you don't have a lot of mental, you don't want to do mental gymnastics or do math. You just want to sit down and do something kind of fun and be able to talk while you do it. And yet there's so many interesting choices, and you play this thing over 4 rounds, and you've got all these little cards that allow you to fulfill, like say I'm going to get 8 points if I get radish, onion, and tomato or something like that. And so I'm trying to collect radish and tomatoes, but other people are trying to get them. And so you're kind of watching what other people are doing. You're watching what you're doing. And you have this variety of player counts that you can play this game with. I just always find it really engaging and really fun. Number 3, Point Salad from AEG.
Yeah, I played that with you. Yeah, it was interesting. That's right.
I enjoyed that game as well.
I first played it with Eric Summer at Dice Tower Con, and then Kay brought it, and we played it and loved it, and then she gave me hers with her little 3-player, with the actual, these little 3D printed card slots, which are cool.
Yeah.
And so I always take it with me because it's something easy to teach too, and it's a good design.
Yeah.
I just need to check something because now you mentioned AEG.
Tiny Towns.
Tiny Town. Was that 2019?
Ooh,
Yes, it was.
It was 2019.
I forgot
was.
about
It
that.
was.
That was another game that I really loved. That probably knock off Era because I really loved that game.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, we got to play that with Paul Grogan when we were at the UK Games Expo.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for Lucky Duck to publish it here in France, and then I'm definitely getting that because I really love that game. That probably actually go higher up, but it would knock off Era. Darn.
I have that as my 6. I'm the only reason I think the game is amazing. I'm just not very good at it.
Yeah. Oh well. So we're down to number 2.
Number 2,
My
Barry.
number 2 shouldn't surprise anyone. It's Batman: Gotham City Chronicles.
Gotham City Chronicles.
Yeah, I've played this a staggering amount of times. Basically because I had the prototype and I demoed a bit for Monolith, but now I've got the final copy. I'm just so in love with this game, and it's a nightmare to get to the table. I managed to get it to Berkey's table.
Yep, it was awesome.
And I was so busy. That's the problem. I was so busy teaching the rules that I forgot about my strategy, and the heroes wiped out the villains and thwarted my plans.
Oh.
It's a game of dice rolling, but it's also a game of resource management, and I just love this game, and it's in my favorite universe. I've got nothing else I can say. It's
got a great app.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. All right, number 2, Emerson.
All right, for me, it's Detective. But even though I love Detective: A Modern Crime Story, but that's a 2018. But it's the other detective game, Detective City of Angels from Van Ryder Games.
From Van Ryder.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that one, I've played it 3 times now, and each time it's been a phenomenal experience. And it is a one versus many, but yet the many, it is still competitive for them too. So it's fully competitive, but it's got a game architecture of one player is playing a sort of like an overlord. So they have all of the information, and they're incentivized to not give you as much information as possible, because all the other players are playing the detectives that are trying to solve the case. And the better you do, so each player is going to be given a score, so that it is fully competitive. So, but players can still, there are mechanisms to allow players to work together to share clues with each other. But you're still working against the one player who, in this game, it's called the Chisel, but they're kind of like the Overlord player in it. So it's got a lot of mechanisms, and the structure of the game is incredibly unique, and it's incredibly narrative driven. It's very, very thematic. And I remember one of my comments in one of the games that I had played. It was actually Sean from the Van Ryder team that was demoing it for us, and he was a Chisel. And there were some clues, and basically almost any component seems like it could have information that you need. So in one case, there's a whole glossary of terms. I mean, they went through a lot of details. There's actually a glossary of terms, and there's almost like a phone book format for all the locations. And one of the clues was that it's a location that has like a bit of a poker reference, and I was going through what looked like a phone book, and I was like, I've never been so excited looking at something that looks like a phone book before.
Wow.
Because I was so fully engaged in that game. So It was a great experience. It's got a lot of replay. It's got replayability up to a certain point, because once you play as a chisel, though, you have all the information. The case is all laid out in front of you, so you probably won't be able to play it as a detective once you've played it as a chisel. But it does come with, I believe there's, I think there's 9 cases in the base game, and I also have the expansion, which I haven't even cracked open yet.
Wow. Mr. Ben Lunches is in the castle, and he says, yay for tiny towns.
I like that icon.
Ben's a good friend. All right, my number 2 is a game that you mentioned, Emerson, that you haven't gotten to play yet, but for me is Wingspan. Stonemaier Games, beautiful art by Beth Sorbel, beautiful design by Elizabeth Hargrave. Stonemaier Games did a lot of nice treatment to this, the nice little production value. The art is wonderful. I live in the upper Midwest, and I live on 11 acres out in the woods. We have a cedar log home, and we feed the birds. So we do a small amount of bird watching. I paint wildlife, primarily like pheasants and ducks and things of that nature. And I do watercolors. And so seeing her artwork with songbirds and predatory birds, and then the little fun facts I found really, really wonderful about the game from a birder's standpoint. And I don't consider myself a birder like some do, but I did take ornithology in high school. But I love the engine building, if you want to call it that, of the play. I like the amount of choices that I have, and the variability of the race for points in each round. I really like it. I've played that game, I'm sure, 10 times. I still want to play it. And to me, that tells me something. That says that's a good game.
Yep.
Yeah, and for me anyway. And you know, there's probably games out there that might have better designs. I don't know. You know, it's a little subjective, but for me, It just really went high. And number 2 is Wingspan from Stonemaier Games. Number 1 for you, Barry. Did we lose our Badger? I think we did. I know it seemed like his internet was giving him some struggles. We can kind of move on. Hopefully that he'll jump back in with us, and maybe what we can do just to fill a little time, because I'm sure he'll be logging back into the show. This is still all being recorded for our live iTunes professionally audio version will drop in just a week or so. But maybe let's talk about a couple. He says he'll sorting out his internet problem, be back soon.
Okay.
Let's talk about a couple of our mentions without mentioning our number 1.
Oh, okay.
If I say one that it's your number 1, don't reveal that. But
okay, sure.
I had a couple that I've really been wanting to play, and sadly, 4 of them are on my shelf of shame. So Scott Morris talks from Crits Happen. He says it's shelf of opportunity.
Yeah.
But it bothers me when I
like his optimistic spin.
Yeah. It's just, I look at it and I just go, oh, I want to play those games, and I don't. But I'll just give you a couple of mine first. One is Taverns of Tiefenthal.
Okay.
That's from North Star Games, and it's in keeping with like the Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Yes, Quacks of Quedlinburg. It's from the same designer, Wolfgang Walsh.
Okay, Wolfgang Walsh. Yes. Yeah. Well, we love Quacks.
Yes,
and
that's great.
I actually picked this up at PAX Unplugged from Nicole there, and bought it, and it's still sitting in shrink. My Kickstarter came in for Paladins of the West Kingdom from Renegade Game Studios.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And I'm told that this is a heavier Euro version versus Raiders and versus Architects of the West Kingdom.
Oh, it's heavier than those two. Okay.
That's my understanding. Super excited about that one. I got Rune Stones, which is supposed to be a really cool deck builder from Queen Games that I picked up at Board Game Geek Con. Barry, just to give you a little heads up, we're just talking about honorable mentions without mentioning our number one yet. So if we mention one, we're not saying it is our number one, but these are just a couple honorable mentions. Two more I have was a Star Wars Outer Rim from Fantasy Flight Games. I really want to try it. I don't own it, but I really want to try it. And then Cthulhu, Death May Die from Come On.
Ooh.
Yep.
Now, from what I'm reading about the reviews of these games, I'm hearing really good things from them, so they probably deserve to be on some list, and they've been on many of my reviewer friends' lists. So that's the thoughts there from me. Did you have any honorable mentions, Emerson?
Well, if we're talking about games that we wanted to play, Wingspan was definitely one of them. Cthulhu Death May Die is the other one that I mentioned before. And I would say probably, gosh, I would say the Middle Earth game from Fantasy Flight it's Middle Earth.
Oh yeah,
Lord of the Rings Journey to Middle Earth. Is that what it was called?
That's what it's called.
Yes, so that was also another one because we were a fan of Mansions of Madness and that format.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely one that we were really interested in playing as well.
Yeah, we played that with Paul Grogan, UK Games Expo, right, Barry?
Yeah. That was enjoyable.
Yeah. That was app-driven too. Yeah.
Yes, app-driven.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Did you have any honorable mentions or anything before we do our top one, Barry?
No, a lot of the games were just like meh games that I've played from 2019. So.
All right. Well, Barry, why don't you give us your number one game of 2019?
My number one game is a game that I played. Oh, I can't spell it though. I've played this once, and it was mind-blowingly amazing. And it's called Greenville. 1989. Here it is. It's a kind of Dixit game, but it's got this large role-playing element where, think Stranger Things, you're a bunch of teenage kids and all of a sudden some demon Cthulhu thing comes from another dimension and turns your world into another dimension. And you're playing these kind of Dixit-style cards, but they're like realistic and they all have these kind of like horror tropes in them. So there's blood splats and Freddy Krueger gloves and red balloons from It, and you're basically narrating where you are. Each player has their own card in front of them, and you're narrating a story of your character, how they're feeling, what they're going to do. And then another player has a handful of other cards, and they are going to assign a card to each of the other players after listening to their stories, and hopefully the cards that they've assigned to them will continue their story. But the thing is, the other players don't know which card has been assigned to them, and you've got to kind of guess and work as a team to figure out which card this other player has assigned to you. And if you're right, you advance in your story. If you're wrong, you're stuck and you fall slowly off into another dimension. And so it's a cooperative game where you are all storytelling and hopefully reuniting at the bowling alley to, as a bunch of teens and fighting off this evil. Fantastic storytelling. I love the horror genre, and so it's very invigorating to come up with ideas and kind of mix in things that you like from your favorite films, whether it be a Nightmare on Elm Street or The Thing or whatever. It's just a fantastic storytelling exercise with some fantastic art, and this kind of Dixit-esque kind of mechanism. And there's going to be a sequel coming out next year, which is blowing my mind, called Paris 1898. But it's not on BGG yet. But it's the same thing, but different, slight tweaks to the rules. So I'm looking forward to that. Fantastic game. My game of 2019.
Wow, fantastic. Your number one game, Emerson Matsuuchi's number one game of 2019.
Foundations of Rome.
Actually, I'll need you to do a Google search, not a board game geek search of this game. And this game is called Death Stranding.
Oh, yes.
It is a video game.
Yeah.
But it was such a phenomenal experience that I had to mention it as the number one game I've played in 2019.
Did they make a board game version of this?
No, not yet.
And so now Berkey and Badger Video Game Babble Show is what we have to call ourselves. So this is what you're doing to the show. Number one, you're going to take us off the rails. You're going video on us and saying, Berkey and Badger, too bad.
That's all right. He's in our dungeon. He can just stay there for another 1,000 years.
You want to stay in the dungeon a long time.
That's why I was in the dungeon, right?
Yeah. So what's so great about this Postman game?
Okay.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yes. It actually has some really good... the acting in this is phenomenal. So you have Norman Reedus of like Walking Dead fame. You have Mads Mikkelsen, who is a phenomenal actor. It's an all-star cast. And the story, when you first get into the game, the story is just so... For one thing, it's really out there. So it's from the same visionary mind that created Metal Gear Solid. Mm-hmm. And it is a game where it's like a post-apocalyptic future, but it's very, very unique in terms of the setting and the story, where something catastrophic has happened and the world has sort of changed, and the way time works has now changed. The way we perceive death is no longer sort of like an abstract concept. It's now something that we can study, and it's very, very interesting how it explains the tie between life and death. And the great part of the game is that the main character you play, who is played by Norman Reedus, you are a normal guy. So it is a game where you're not playing a guy with superpowers. He doesn't have any special combat training. So whenever there are conflicts, whenever there is combat, you can, or whenever he encounters terrifying supernatural beings, it is genuinely terrifying because you can empathize with the main character because he's a normal guy. And so you could really put yourself in his shoes. And now a lot of people have touted this game as basically a UPS simulator because in a way the gameplay is all about delivering packages from one place to it. It's funny, it's a pick up and deliver game. So it's a board game mechanic, so that's why I'm justified in including it here. It's kind of like Merchants of Venus a little bit. But I remember that there was probably one of my most tense moments in a game was when I needed to deliver sensitive medical equipment. And I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but I had to transport sensitive medical equipment from like one facility to like a shelter because someone's life was depending on it. And I only had a limited amount of time to be able to get it there. And the game gave you an interesting decision. I could go one path where it takes me through an area full of terrorists that are trying to kill me. And remember, I'm a guy with no special combat training. All right. The other path will lead me through an area that's infested with these supernatural predators from the other world. And again, he has the ability to sense them, but you have limited capabilities of like fighting them. So it is genuinely terrifying. And it was incredibly tense because you have to get from this point to this point. But boy, the struggles of doing that were insane.
And
so it is, if you're a fan at all of video games, it is a game that I would recommend you give a look to. So
Emerson Matsuuchi must be having some ideas of making
board
a
game version.
Board game here.
Yeah.
There's something intriguing his soul here.
With Metal Gear Solid coming out next year as a board game, I think he...
Yes.
I see a tie.
I'm stretching it, but... Well, I'm going with rules as written, and I believe you said top 5 games of 2019.
Okay.
Oh man, here's a rule. Now he's a rules
Yeah,
lawyer.
it's lucky he didn't take us into the family
And
bedroom.
I thought he was such a nice guy.
I told you I was a jerk.
Yeah. I'm lucky it wasn't a bedroom game.
Well, we are very happy to have you all here at Berkey and Badger Board Game Video Review Center, and with the video expert Emerson Matsuuchi.
I've only just got my
joining us.
I've only just got my PlayStation 4 and my copy of Fallout 4 after years of putting off.
Well, to end this out so we can move along here, number 1 for Sir Berkey is a game by one of my favorite publishers. I absolutely love the production of this. I absolutely love the theme of this. I loved it so much, we designed a game mat that goes along with it at Game Toppers from the same artist. But this game is Reavers of Midgard. And this game is from Gray Fox Games. And J.B. Howell is the designer, along with Joshua Lubinsky at the team at Gray Fox Games. What I found so engaging about this game is every action, everybody is getting a part of that action, just to a lesser degree. So it has kind of a worker placement type of mechanism, but everybody gets something. The choices are very compelling, and there's always a tension, like, I kind of want to do that, but should I do it first to get the most out of it? Or can I still get away with getting what I need over there and do something that benefits me a little better? It's a heavier Euro than Champions of Midgard. I really enjoy Champions of Midgard with the Valhalla and the Mountains expansion. I love what that did to mitigate the dice and different things. I love the theme of it, but it was very much more of a simple worker placement game. This one here has a much heavier Euro mechanic where we're gathering dice and workers to do certain things. I just think it's fantastic. The production value is amazing. I love the theme. I just absolutely love Reavers of Midgard. I'll play it anytime anybody wants to play.
There you have it.
Very cool.
We did it!
Yay!
We talked about all kinds of stuff with our special guest, Emerson Matsuuchi, at Matsuuchi designer extraordinary. Watch my tongue fall down the steps. Emerson Matsuuchi, extraordinary designer of the new game Foundations of Rome by Arcane Wonders, and it's on Kickstarter right now. You can go take advantage of this just wonderful city building, family weight, engaging, incredible production game. Right now on Kickstarter, it's already funded over 400% in less than 1 day. Jump on board, take a look at it. And again, Emerson, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This was a great time.
Yeah, this is super big fun. Badger, again, thank you so much for all your effort you put into putting the show together for us for our pro audio edit.
Well, it's not done yet, so don't thank me yet.
And do you have any parting words for us, sir?
Damn you, internet. That's what I can say. Spoiled you. Yeah, now I want Death Standing. Thank you.
Well, you can find us at Berkey and Badger on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at the Berkey and Badger Guild on Board Game Geek number 2248. And we'd love to engage with you. Badger is putting up several polls generally on the guild there. So we may have a poll that we'll put up regarding your favorite games of 2019 and can get people to enjoy that. And again, if you'd like to late pledge and get in on a Game Topper goodness, you can still late pledge, and over 40 stretch goals were unlocked at GameToppersLLC.com. And with that, I think we're just gonna send us off till next time at the end of the month. We'll see you all later.
Thank you again for listening to Berkey and Badger's Board Game Babble. This show was written, produced, and performed by Kevin Burkhardt-Smyer and Barry Doublet, as was the music too, with a little help from the Balance of Power. Although the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly theme was composed by Ennio Morricone, and background effects were supplied by Sirenscape. Enhance your gaming at Sirenscape.com. Join us next time where we might have a special guest, or we may review a game. But either way, there'll be more craziness and more babbling.